Good morning, good morning. I'm Beth Williams, by day the tourism manager for this lovely town that we all live and work in. And I'm serving here as a member of the 250th committee. And thank you for coming. We have agendas. If you need more, please let me know. There's a sign-up sheet by the door where Polly is standing. If anybody doesn't know Polly Meyer, you should wave and say hello. Polly is our social media for this awesome event that we're having. Everybody should get to know her. On the table, we have some samples of merch. If there's anything that you needed to purchase, the visitor center is fully stocked, and Priscilla has a small amount here if you need to purchase. There is also a bucket of 250 buttons. If you don't have one, please take one. We have some coins, some t-shirts, assorted other merchandise. We have a sign-in sheet. If you please make sure we have your name and email, you will get a copy of the recording from today, as well as updates from the business community that might be relevant to all of you as you go about your business. And lastly, there is a set of papers for questions. So if after the meeting you have any questions that did not get answered, please fill one out on the way out the door, and we will do our best to get back to you with answers. And I'm going to introduce Gary Clayton, chair of our executive committee for the 250th, to kick this off.
Thank you, Beth. Good morning, all. Nice to see you. I was mindful of this lovely weather, and it's exactly the kind of weather we're going to have on April 19th, 2025, right? Keep thinking positive. As Beth mentioned, I'm currently chair of the executive committee, 250 executive committee, and welcome you all here this morning. We've been busy for the past 2 years as an executive committee of, at this point, 13 members, involving numerous subcommittees with literally over 100 volunteers, all working on various aspects of the celebrations for Concord's 250th. It is a complex endeavor. It's an exciting one and a challenging one. And what we want to accomplish this morning is to have a conversation, a dialogue about what we're looking at in terms of how it will affect particularly the business community within Concord. And I say affect within the broader context of both the opportunities and advantages that this major celebration will offer. But yes, there will be some challenges. So our work in working particularly with the public safety team is ongoing. It's important, and I hope again this morning is an opportunity for you to help raise questions, concerns, ideas you may have to help us ensure a successful, safe, and enjoyable celebration. This endeavor on our part is one that also involves a lot of coordination within Concord, but it also involves a great deal of coordination with our sister communities along the Battle Road, as well as with the National Park Service. I'll ask my colleague on the executive committee, Rob Monroe, to speak briefly now this morning just about the broader context of the regional cooperation that we are working towards to, again, ensure an event that very important for Concord, but we're mindful that this is an event that will be of significance both regionally and nationally. Rob.
Thanks, Gary. Good morning, everyone. I feel like the mic may not be necessary, but we'll keep it on anyways. Rob Monroe, Vice Chair, Concord 250th. I also oversee the group that's responsible for the intermunicipal work between, let me see if I can do this in alphabetical order, Arlington, Concord, Lexington, and Lincoln. There we go. And we've been meeting weekly for the last year and a half to coordinate all events, transportation, logistics, and things like that across the 4 Battle Road towns and Minuteman National Historic Park. This is the first time that these celebrations have included such a coherent level of collaboration, thanks in no small part to Mike Lawson, who had the foresight to really get this party started. 2017 is when I think you first started talking about it, something like that. So there's a lot of work there. And so as we do this work locally in Concord, we're doing so with an eye toward representing what our other communities on the Battle Road are doing as well, and being mindful that we have to get people excited about the events here and also in the other communities, and perhaps more importantly, figuring out the logistics between getting people here, keeping them here, and then getting them to and throughout the other 3 communities as well on the weekend of April 19th, 2025. And so the events that we are planning, the schedule that we have on Saturday, April 19th, 2025, keep in mind the other towns' events as well. So there's very little overlap with what's happening in Lexington, by the way. Lexington and Concord have tried to stagger, to the extent that we could, all of the events that we have so that should someone be compelled, they can go from Concord to Lexington and then throughout the weekend maybe stop in Arlington and Lincoln as well. And so we're doing all of that at the same time. And we couldn't do any of it without really the work of public safety officials who are really coordinating much of the regional logistics around keeping everyone safe while we do all these really exciting activities. And so I think our job is to really take a lot of advice and guidance from public safety and public works to make sure that the events we're doing make sense, that they're not too large, not too small, but ultimately we're going to welcome quite a number of people to town, somewhere between 100, 150,000 people, something like that. And there's a lot of logistics to really work on there. And so that's that. I don't know if Beth mentioned, but there's paper back there. If you have questions or thoughts or comments, to do that, we'll have time for Q&A later on this morning. But I think, who am I passing it off to now, Gary? Thank you. All right. Public safety team, Public Works, show's yours. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning, everybody. Fred Ryan, also Concord250 Executive Committee, leading the Public Safety Group. I'm here with Captain Brian Goldman from the Police Department, Assistant Fire Chief Walter Latta from the Fire Department, and Aaron McCloskey from Concord Public Works. You know, when we talk about public safety, you really want to define that, right? It's not, your initial reaction is police and fire. It really involves public works, public health, and all of the municipal assets and resources that are available to us during these celebrations. Before I turn it over to the group of professionals, I just want to sort of give you the vision of what's going on in terms of planning the public safety for the celebration next year. You know, at the macro level, we're working with the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, on a multi-jurisdictional effort, which includes all the jurisdictions that Rob mentioned, in addition to the National Park Service, and all of our federal and state law enforcement, public safety, fire service, and military assets, to include the National Guard. So that's sort of macro level, developing a multi-jurisdictional plan so that we're, as we all draw on the same resources, we're doing it in a logical and well-planned manner. Unlike in 1975, when all the jurisdictions sort of operated in all of their own silos, and there was very little inter-municipal communications going on at that time. We've learned a lot since then. We've had a lot of tragic events, as you well know, the marathon bombings, 9/11, and other very tragic events from which we've been able to draw from and learn from the after-action reports so that we can develop a plan that ensures the safety and convenience of your customers, people coming to your businesses, but also one that enables us to respond, God forbid, to an act of violence or other critical incident that would require a technical rescue. Everything from a missing child to a terrorist act is sort of what we're planning for. So with that, I'll turn it over to our group of public safety professionals. I'll close with, you know, I've had many conversations with our police chief, Chief Mulcahy. He's very engaged in this planning process. His vision is an event that's safe and open to all, and one where we have the assets and resources ready and available to respond should we need to, but one that's not optically appearing to be over-policed, which is very, very critically important to the chief, and I fully support him in that effort. So that's sort of a quick Reader's Digest version of our work, and we'll turn it over to our group of professionals to give a quick presentation. And we need your feedback, right? I'm sure there are concerns in the room. there will be adverse impact to your businesses. We're going to do everything we can to minimize those impacts and work with you to credential your staff and develop a plan that allows you to get your deliveries and all of the other logistical matters that need to be addressed so that you can run your business and be profitable and thrive during this celebration. We can't do it without your feedback. We're not business people, we're public safety professionals. So please, we want questions. We want you to challenge our plans, and hopefully, collaboratively, we can come up with a plan that addresses your needs and our public safety needs. So thank you. Turn it over to our group. Thanks, guys. Captain Gold. Go get it.
Good morning, all. Just to piggyback on what the chief said real quick, we are here for you. We want to listen. We want to hear your concerns. We want to tweak our plan. We know we're going to have multiple drafts of this. We've already discussed this, but we want to make this work for you. We don't want you to feel intimidated by this. We don't want you to feel like you're being left out. Your voice is very, very important to us. In a couple minutes, I'll turn it over to Assistant Fire Chief Latta. We'll go over the parade route. We'll go over the staging areas, the road closures, the parking areas that we're considering at this point. Again, none of this is etched in stone just yet. So we're working to kind of piece this together and figure it out.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron McCloskey. I'm the Highway and Ground Superintendent for Concord Public Works. So what we're showing on the screen is a resource map. This has been a map that we've been working collaboratively with our team to develop over the last few months. The basis of the map is essentially the parade route. So everything is focused around securing that parade route to make it as safe for the spectators and the participants as possible. And then what you're seeing is also different icons that represent different resources, key points in town that we've identified as being very significant for this event to help support our operations and support the public. So a little bit of highlights. There's not a key there, so I'll walk through what the map kind of represents. So you're going to see a purple shaded line. That's the parade route. There are two streets that have kind of the dots next to them. Everett Street is one of them, and that's going to be where the parade is going to be staging and stepping off. It's going to be going up Thoreau right there, and then taking a right onto Sudbury, downtown into the square, and then a left up Lowell Road to Liberty, cutting through the National Park and coming down Monument Street back to the square, up Lexington, and then back down Haywood right there. So that's the parade route, and so that is a hard closure all through there. Those red lines in each streets that represented in red is a hard closure, which means there's going to be no motor vehicle traffic allowed on those streets ahead of the event. How far ahead is yet to be determined. It really is going to be some of the factors to that decision is how quickly can we secure those roads. It's not just going to be like a wooden barricade or somebody with cones sitting there to lock down the street. We're talking hard barricades and hard closures. For anybody that's attended the parade in the last few years, you'll see that Concord Public Works is utilizing some of our heavier duty trucks as hard barricades. That's almost a standard practice in this community and in others in the Commonwealth when they're having parades or allowing folks and pedestrians to walk in the streets. They're putting out hard barricades. So it'll be vehicles, it'll be other hard barricade type devices. It does take a lot of time from a logistics standpoint to deploy all of those. And we want to make sure that it's clear and swept, and any cars that might be left parked in those areas are cleared out. So those roads will be closed well ahead of the event. So likely sometime maybe a day before or so. But again, we're working through all of those timelines. The streets that are highlighted in yellow represent what we're calling soft closures. So to minimize impacts to residential neighborhoods and help us facilitate deploying our resources and our needs and making it a safe event, those are going to be some soft closures. What does that mean? It's yet to be determined, but really it's not going to let through traffic into that area of Concord Center. We're going to be controlling traffic, controlling the flow. There'll be police officers and law enforcement personnel set up as traffic details, assisting traffic detours. But those areas are what we're calling a soft closure at this point. Some of the other icons that you might see out there are the wrench and the hammer. Those are some of our public safety, law enforcement, police, fire, municipal resources. So those are some of the key points and some parking lots that we're going to be utilizing to bring in some resource and staffing ahead of the event, so we have those available for our needs. There's little bus icons. Those are what we're calling transportation kind of drop-off points. So they could be parking lots where we're going to ask customers or potentially employees of downtown businesses to park at and be shuttled in, and some bus stops that we're going to be offering. There are some things like you see across, that's kind of first aid. There's restroom locations focused down there. There's some a fork and a knife, some food establishments or potentially some food trucks. Areas that we've identified for staging of those. And there's some other icons, EOC, some stars and things like that. Those are really relative to law enforcement, public safety, staging locations, and some of the operation centers that we focus on. There's some green icons that represent public restrooms that we'll be deploying out there. But that's really a kind of high level. There's also some Ps. Those are some remote parking areas that we've identified. Those are mainly private parking lots that we're going to be working with the owners of those properties through MOUs or MOAs to identify as areas where we're going to focus and communicate and tell people to park so they can be shuttled in to attend the events. Since really a lot of the motor vehicle traffic to downtown will be limited with those hard and those soft closures. So that's an overview of the map. I can't stress enough to Captain Schoolman's comments. This is a draft. This is one of a few versions. It's going to be an evolving, fluid document as we learn more about the events that are being planned to take place. You know, not only is there going to be a parade, there's talks of some other events later in the evening that can modify this map, and other things that come up over the next few months during the planning process. So again, this is really just a draft high level. We haven't distributed this publicly. This is probably the first public open meeting that we've shared a picture of this map. But it's really just to give this group an idea of what we're doing for kind of traffic control and some of the impacts to Concord Center from, let's say, possibly Friday night into the early hours of Sunday morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Walter Latter, Assistant Fire Chief here in Concord. Not only do I wear this uniform, but I'm also a member of Mass Task Force, Urban Search and Rescue, where I'm a logistics manager for that team. Some of my deployments were Hawaii for 19 days out there, and Vermont. I was in Vermont with Aaron McCloskey, who's also a logistics specialist. So moving people, getting the logistics needs is something we are experts in. I'll just say that. And so we've identified these resources. So some of the things that we've looked at is, when do we go into operations? Well, our Emergency Operations Center is going to be open on Thursday. We need to start getting things prepared, ready, and start working with our, like Fred said, some of our partners. So we need to start opening up on Thursday, our Emergency Operations Center. So come Friday, we're going to have a lot more resources here in the community. We need to start letting those people that are going to be helping us see the community, deal with some of the obstacles that we might have, one of them being communications. We know cell phone is an issue, and I don't want to go down that, but they need to experience that themselves. But we're also going to be looking at getting MEMA to get some of those, what they call cell on wheels. And that's why we've looked at some of the parking spots on Kai's Road to designate a cell on wheels there, a first aid station. That's going to be one of our hubs for locating a lot of stuff. We feel that a lot of people are going to be there, but that's why we're going to use that area. So therefore, you're probably saying, well, where do my people park? We've looked at Crosby's Market. They're parking there, and then the people can walk down. So there's some stuff like that. We have to have some more communications on when you're going to get resupplied. We obviously don't want your food vendor trucks coming in or your truck supplies coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning on the day of the parade. That's just not going to be helpful for us, because if we do have a presidential visit, I've worked with the Secret Service. They will be doing sweeps. They are not going to want to see an 18-wheeler come down Main Street. So these are some of the obstacles that we have to talk about and communicate through, but these are some of the things that we're looking at. But operations are going to then continue, because we've been just informed that there's going to be a great band coming in, a live fest. So you're looking at 2 o'clock. Will be Live Fest kicking off approximately, so therefore our operations are going to extend all through Saturday into Saturday night, and probably shutting down on Sunday and things of that nature. So you got to remember, we're going to be sharing a lot of resources with Lexington. That weekend you have Good Friday, then you have our event with Lexington, then you have Easter, and then Marathon Monday. So the Commonwealth is going to be taxed to the extreme when it comes to resources. So these are some of the things that we're looking at, but we're identifying the resources that we need here in Concord to make this a very safe and welcoming and exciting parade. So my wife just recently told me, start looking at the positives, not the negatives. So that's how I'm doing this. And I think we're going to have a great event, but we're going to make it very safe. So just to give you some estimates, on the day of the parade this past year, we had 117 town employees. We estimate we're probably going to have 750 law enforcement and fire safety personnel for that event. If you're expecting 150,000 to 200,000, we're going to need that many people. So that just gives you an estimate on how many people we're going to have here. You're not going to see them all, which is good, but that's what we plan on doing. And I can't tell you enough, the National Parks is a fantastic partner to work with, and they're going to be bringing resources in from DC and all throughout the federal community. So that's all I have. We'll be glad to take some questions. I know you probably have some, but thank you. I also have maps up here if anybody needs to see them.
Yeah, so that's a quick summary, and excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. And in terms of this plan evolving, the Family Festival at either potentially at Emerson Field and or CCHS will expand our operational phase. So Walter mentioned a little bit, we're going to begin, going into our operational phases likely on Thursday, and it will extend, as Aaron mentioned, well into the early morning hours of Sunday. So all of our public safety, public works, public health staff will go into likely 12-hour operational phases. There's a lot of unknowns right now. The festival isn't locked in stone, the venue isn't locked in stone, and the performing artists have not yet been identified. So if a James Taylor or Don Henley were to come to town to celebrate, that's going to complicate matters for us significantly in terms of crowd control and public safety. So there are some unknowns, but what is known is obviously the parade, and we'll just expand our operational phase to encompass the Family Festival when the plans are more certain around that event and those activities. So with that, we really need feedback and questions. We're trying to think of everything. MEMA's been a great, the director of MEMA herself has attended some of our meetings. She reports to the governor. They have been extraordinary partners, and we are relying heavily on their subject matter expertise at planning complex events. We're blessed here in Concord to have Kurt Schwartz as a resident. Kurt is the former MEMA director. Was he the director during the marathon bombings? Yeah. So he continues to consult with the Boston Athletic Association in planning the marathon every year. He's on our public safety committee. So we've brought the resources and subject matter expertise to the table, but we're not business people. And so we need to hear how we may potentially adversely impact your business, and then figure out how we mitigate those impacts to help you thrive. So with that, please let us have it. Break out the fruit. Please.
Being president of the chamber, a lot of the questions I've had from our membership is concerns of employees getting to the shops, to the restaurants, to the businesses. So how do you have a plan yet for how people will come in and out?
So we intend to develop a credentialing system, which will include your staff. Likely will be satellite or off-site parking. Like Walter mentioned, we're contemplating Crosby's and other locations. So they'll have credentials to get into the outer perimeter and get access to the satellite parking, and then either transportation and or walk to their place of employment. That's the current plan, but certainly open to feedback if others have either concerns with that or suggestions to improve that sort of.
That works better than the walking from home.
Yes, yeah, we don't want that. And I should point out, the MBTA has also been a great partner thus far. Gary may know more on this, but we're looking to improve accessibility at both Thorough Street and West Concord for handicap accessibility, and they too have committed the appropriate resources around transportation issues and their expertise in dealing with major events.
I have one more question, more questions, but one more question is that some of my membership or our membership in West Concord, they were asking if there would be resources and services
In terms of transportation or?
In terms of, I guess, protection.
So, yeah, both the police and fire department and public works, all of the three major agencies, their plan contemplates regular day-to-day activities and 911 response outside of the event itself. So the short answer is yes. That's an element of the planning. We certainly do expect to have medical emergencies and, car crashes outside of the perimeter that Aaron described here in West Concord and 9 Acre and other neighborhoods. And we have a plan to have public safety resources ready, available, and deployed. We'll also rely heavily on mutual aid during these operational phases. I don't have my video with me, but we've scoured, all the after-action reports and videos from 1975. And it's interesting, we saw a police patch from the city of Worcester, a police officer here from Worcester helping our Concord police officers. So, and the fire department has a pre-existing robust mutual aid plan that works flawlessly. They really are the experts on that and have been doing so for many years in terms of sharing ambulances and fire apparatus. So short answer is yes, and we do fully expect the balance of the town to go about its business, and we'll try to minimize the impact to them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, I want to change Bobby Benson. I'm also a business owner here in Concord. Would you reiterate exactly which days and for how long all of this will be in effect so that our staffs can safely get into our businesses?
Well, as Aaron mentioned, it's to be determined, specifically the back end, depending on the family festival. And we're also developing a demobilization plan. So what will it take? It will take time to mobilize all these assets and resources and road closures. It will take time to demobilize all these assets and resources. So clearly we're going into Sunday. In terms of the beginning, we're talking Thursday, late Thursday, before the soft road closures begin. Friday, hard road closures and lockdown for the weekend. And that's subject to change depending on whether we have a presidential visit or other dignitary visits as well.
So it could be the better part of the week.
If I were a business person, I would plan to have an impact to your business Thursday through Sunday.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And again, our goal is to minimize that impact.
Does that mean that the bus transportation to get into the center would start Thursday night or Thursday?
Yeah, so transportation, thank you, Holly. The transportation is the transportation working group. I didn't mention the work groups. We have a number of work groups, multi-jurisdictional work groups, from explosive devices, again, down to family reunification. The law enforcement working group is working with a subcommittee that's developing a transportation plan, a multi-jurisdictional transportation plan, which will include satellite parking, transportation to and from all the municipalities and the park. And so we will have transportation that will have access through the soft closures up to the edge of the hard closures. We won't be allowing commercial vehicles inside of the what we call the HUD zone. That make sense? So that plan is being developed. And on the work groups, again, there will be a unified coordination center, likely at Minuteman, where all of the federal, state, and municipal specialized assets will be staged. Should Concord need to draw on a bomb team, it will be there. Should Lexington need to draw on a canine team to search for a missing child, it will be at the Unified Coordination Center so that we're all sharing resources and that we're all aligned and communicating effectively. We're even developing a hazardous weather plan. Should we have thunderstorms? We want our messaging to be consistent across all the jurisdictions in the Park Service, so that as we message to the celebrations participants, we want to be able to be giving clear, concise, and consistent directives to people to ensure everybody's public safety. So these work groups, we have learned so much from the past tragic events. We're developing plans accordingly, and that includes transportation, Holly.
I'm thinking about the number of people that might want to come and go from this area between Thursday and Sunday, both employees and residents who maybe recognize that their car is going to be on lockdown. Do you need some help estimating how many vehicles that might be, whether that's a concrete survey of the businesses, talking to the residents, because it seems like a lot that's kind of going towards the Crosby's area, and maybe we can get you a more accurate number to anticipate. Is that reasonable?
Captain?
It probably wouldn't hurt, but we're anticipating trying to make it easier for the employees of the businesses to have the closest parking possible. The idea is that if they want to walk to work, they can walk to work. But if they want transportation inside our closures, we'll make that available as best we can up to a certain point. So that's one of the things we're looking at for Crosby's, is figuring there's enough parking spaces in there. We can get at least 100+ cars in there if we need to. People may choose that they don't want to park that close to the event. There's going to be other parking in town where they can be shuttled in from. So there's a lot of, it's very fluid, is what I'm trying to say in terms of what we're looking at and what we're looking to do.
But we'll never say no to information, right? If you have some data, if you have some information that you're willing to share with us, we'll certainly accept that and fold it into our planning, right?
Will it be helpful to know what would be helpful to you?
Well, I mean, the number of staff we're talking about, right? How many staff members are we trying to move into and out of a tight inner perimeter, particularly if we have a presidential visit? We'll want to know if you have their identities. I mean, the credentialing system is going to, we're going to have to work through the business leadership and ownership to credential their staff. So an inventory of names, if it's available. We don't want to create work, but any information that's readily available, we'll never say no to information. Thank you.
I guess I'm wondering a little bit about the confidentiality of the map. I mean, there are a lot of friendly faces around this room, but are you making yourself more vulnerable, and are we supposed to sort of keep this quiet?
Well, this map is the parade and the soft closure and hard closure for the parade route. There's a lot of information that's not on this map, and it will not publicly be on this map. So we're comfortable sharing what's displayed here today. Yeah, we're going to have to publicize the closures. We want to communicate effectively, and Gary has displayed extraordinary leadership around making sure that we communicate effectively with the community, and I feel like he's on my shoulder sometimes, but make sure the community knows what's going on. So.
Given that there's events going on that whole time in other towns, specifically in the other 3 communities we're coordinating with, will there be an ebb and flow of resources as each town, an event moves to Lexington or to Lincoln or to, Arlington or something like that? And how is that going to affect the course of this whole time?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of ebb and flow of resources, again, the specialized resources will be central and available to all the jurisdictions. So, technical rescue team, that if Walter's people had to rescue somebody, they're at the coordination center, we're calling it. In terms of assets needed to establish perimeters and road closures, particularly with our family festival, we're going to hold on to those assets well into the day on Saturday and into the early morning hours of Sunday. So we won't be releasing any of those assets to Lincoln or Lexington. The assets that we're able to release, we will release and communicate through the Unified Coordination Center okay, we're releasing 50 police officers. They then go and get deployed, get staged back at the Unified Coordination Center and redeployed to Lincoln or Lexington or Arlington. Does that make sense? But we will retain the resources we need for Concord as long as the incident commanders need them. So, and actually it's a good question because I talk about this macro level multi-jurisdictional plan. There's also a Concord-specific incident action plan. And so that incident action plan defines the resources necessary to effectively execute our plan. And we will hold those resources as long as these gentlemen deem necessary. Does that answer your question?
It does. And a follow-up, if there's an incident in either Concord or any of the other towns, right, will assets be released to go to that, and we need to draw on other towns' assets.
Yeah, great question. So if there is a critical incident, how do we manage resources? Again, we've learned a lot, and we've learned a lot about public safety officials self-deploying without having been directed by incident commanders. So if there is an event, everything will be coordinated through the Unified Coordination Center, and assets and resources will only be deployed with the authorization of incident commanders for that discipline. So if it's a fire asset, there'll be a commanding officer in the Unified Coordination Center that will authorize the deployment of assets. Nobody will self-deploy. That was a problem in Watertown following the marathon bombings. We've learned a lot, again, from these incidents, hence the Unified Coordination Center.
I'm going to take one more question from Jamie and then Gary, and then I want to make sure we have time to talk about food. And then there are question sheets at the back too, so if you have additional questions, we're going to do our best to answer them after.
Food? Are you serving breakfast? Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Just a quick
5
question.
o'clock somewhere.
In terms of shopkeepers, like if there is a small emergency, if not that a child getting lost is small, but if a child is lost or somebody comes to us seeking help, do we call 911 or will there be like a certain number we should call?
Yes, good question. Call 911 either from a mobile device if you can get access, or a landline. We will be beefing up 911 services as well regionally. State 911 is a partner in this planning project, and we'll have the capabilities to assign the appropriate personnel depending on the location, severity of the incident, and other factors. Missing children, while it may seem, I say bombs to missing children. We're taking missing children very seriously as well. I mean, that's a frightening experience for a parent. We know how those situations can go sideways really quickly. And so, our call takers will be able to give parents or loved ones appropriate instructions, stay put, get a police officer by your side, because oftentimes we find the child, but we lose the parent. So we have a plan, and those can be terribly traumatic events for parents and loved ones. And so, I hope I didn't minimize the importance of missing children. I would not want to do that.
A couple of thoughts. One, within the closure zone, the Concord post office is located. So, we've already started conversations with the postmaster about the idea the mail must be delivered. And that's, I know the public safety team is working on that, but just to highlight another aspect of our business relations and work that needs to be done. And secondly, we've been talking with members of the faith community, because as Walter indicated, the scheduling is complicated in 2025. A number of significant religious holidays happen the week of, the weekend of the 250th celebrations. So I'm thinking that this kind of detailed information will be important now to share with some members of the faith community that we've already been in touch with on numerous occasions to talk about how they will function within these proposed restrictions and closures. And, that has bearing on deployment of public safety assets as well as we move people and vehicles around. So just a reminder, that's another layer of complexity that we're mindful of and we're working on.
Yeah, and this is Chief Lauder just put it out as well. We do expect national and potentially international media, so we'll have to have a media staging area. We're working with communications professionals around, messaging, and that's another complexity that the reality is, we can put the media in West Concord, they're not going to stay there, right? So we have to give them, access to the events and, a location where they can get video footage, but in an area where it will not adversely impact our operations. So that's another complicating. There's a lot of complicating factors about that inner perimeter that we're still working out. And Gary just pointed out, obviously the post office is a complex organization and important function to our community. So Beth, breakfast time,
Thanks,
wine? Yeah.
Wine.
I'll take a Pinot Noir.
What did Joe make us? Cabernet and Chardonnay with the 250. I just want to thank our public safety team for giving us the information this morning. It is a work in progress. It has been over a year of really hard work with an amazing amount of collaboration. I know those of us that are on committees for the 250 could not even have a start if we didn't have the support and the backup of these guys as well as their huge team. So I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to ask Mimi Graney to come up briefly to talk about food. So we're talking food deliveries, food permits, give you guys an idea of what you'll need to know. This also is a work in progress. So, and Melanie was not able to be here with us, our health director. So we do have some information from her, and then more will be coming.
Hello, everybody. Melanie is off on a food inspection. So she wants to make sure, in terms of going back to that map, that we're able to share that with the food businesses within the parameter, because they're going to need to coordinate trash pickups and food deliveries. They're not going to be able to stock up fully at the beginning, so to anticipate to work them into the mix. As the food inspector, she is responsible not only for enforcing local regulations, but also state food regulations. So her hope is to request that there be a deadline of February 1st for applications for anybody that's going to be doing any kind of mobile food vending. So whether it's going to be food trucks or outdoor vending of any type. And she's proposing that there be 2 meetings with those vendors, one a month out and then 1 week out. I think she's looking at not only do we have to make sure that each of those mobile vendors have got a safe place to be able to, as their home base of operations, but that their mobile base of that they're operating out of complies with the state food code. So she'll be looking at people's existing permits, looking at what kind of hand washing, restrooms, how they're keeping things hot, cold, how they're getting the food there. So she wants to have enough lead time to be able to work out all of those logistics. She's proposing having a forms portal. So I'm not sure, I think it sounds like there's something different than what permitted eyes is, recognizing that can be a little cumbersome, and then also to facilitate, anticipating there's going to be some coordination among those vendors and just to be able to answer questions. She is also looking at sidewalk vending, whether that might be by retailers, recognizing that the streetscape where the food vendors might want to be set up might also be used by other entities, whether that's folks selling souvenirs, that might be the regular retailers. So to look at how to coordinate that in a feasible way. I will do my best to answer any questions. Or solicit feedback. I'm wondering if folks might have feedback on the February 1st deadline, recognizing that's kind of a stretch of time before the event.
So the February 1st deadline is because we are anticipating a lot of interest in existing brick and mortar wanting to have food outdoors out of their normal operating procedures, and there's only one health inspector. So She is going to hold to the deadline, so that's why we wanted to get it out to you as soon as possible so you can plan ahead for it. We just, because of staffing and time to inspect and make sure everybody is safe food handling, we won't be able to take any after that. So that's important for the committees to know, as to pass the word on to the individual committees that are working on all of that, that it will be really critical that we do hold to a deadline. But as Mimi said, if you have feedback, if you have questions, we will try to answer them, and we certainly will also pass them on to Melanie.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, so as promised, we are almost at 9:30, so I just want to give everybody an opportunity to talk to us as committee members. I want to make sure that you know who to go to for everything, so I'm going to ask Polly to come up really quickly and talk to you about how you can get involved, who to contact for whatever questions you might have. Yeah.
I'm the person you'll want to reach out to when you want to get the word out about your event. So I'm running the social media and the website for Concord250. It's Concord250.org. And we want to try to promote, make sure we get your events out. It might not even be an event. Like if you're a retailer, you have souvenirs maybe, you have tricorn hats, anything like that, special events that might be tied in. We're celebrating Concord250 all year long. And doing at least one post per day. I'm also promoting these events on Living Concord, which I run in through the chamber. We'll be making sure to get the word out to people about all these great events that you're hosting. And at the meeting on Thursday night, they were talking a lot about just making sure you get your events on the calendar as soon as possible. So even if you have like an event that's, you don't have all the details yet, but you have the date, just send it to me and we can work with that and just put it on the calendar so it's a placeholder, and then we'll fill it in as it comes up. You'll want to email Polly, concord250@gmail.org. Yeah. And gmail.com. Sorry, I'm thinking of the website, gmail.com. Polly, concord250@gmail.com. And if you lose that email, Beth knows how to reach me. And if you see me walking around with my phone taking pictures, that's all around town. We'll be featuring different organizations and venues all around town all year.
Thanks, Polly. I think really the thing that we want to make sure to convey is that every single business, individual, at home, brick and mortar can participate in the 250. We want you to participate. We want you to create a signature drink. We want you to sell merchandise. We want you to be a part, join a committee. Volunteers will be needed. So there is no shortage of work to be done, and it's being led by an all-volunteer committee with some staff support. So please reach out to us. Let us help you. Let us know what you need. The committee is here for you. And I'm going to just open it up to any questions and let Gary feed.
Thank you, Beth. Any other thoughts, questions related to the subject this morning or semi-related? It's fine, but this is a good chance to ask those.
I'm curious as to how the logistics are going to happen of getting folks. You mentioned, maybe people are at this parade and then want to go to the Lexington parade, or go to Arlington, or go to Lincoln. How realistically are they going to be able to get from one place to the other? And maybe they aren't, but that's something that's good to know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an important question where there's a lot of thinking going on about that. Fred has spoken to that to some degree. Rob Monroe, who's working with the, here he is. He will help answer this question with his work with the intermunicipal group.
It's a really good question and a really difficult calculus to solve for. So we're working closely with the Public Safety Transportation Working Group Subcommittee to develop a kind of master transportation plan for the entire region. Inherent in that is the need to secure transportation assets, buses, shuttles, things like that. Once we have a sense of how many buses, shuttles, other modalities we need, we're going to go out to bid and grab as many of them as possible. In a way, knowing how many buses and things that we're going to be able to get will dictate how easily we can get people to and fro. And so that's work we're going to do over the summer, and then hopefully by the start of the fall, we'll have a very good plan on what that's going to look like feasibly.
There are planning professionals from each municipality on that work.
It's not just me making stuff up, right? We've retained professionals. I appreciate that. It's all a facade. But, yeah.
The event, I wanted to point out that there are 4 houses of worship and 1 Mason lodge that all have parking lots, and so adding porta-johns in those locations would be really helpful so people aren't trying to get into the restaurants and stores just to use the bathrooms. So right there in Concord Center, we could have a lot of porta-johns.
Yeah, we started engaging with the different religious organizations about 2 years ago, really, understanding that it's, of course, the timeline worked out that it's Passover, Easter, things like that. So we'll continue those conversations from a public works and public safety perspective as well. But they've been phenomenal partners already. So we'll keep tapping into that resource.
And I heard a count of 200 and something portable restrooms that Walter is planning on ordering. So I think, oh, more? Oh, sorry, Captain Goldman says there's more than that. Other questions? Hold on.
So, Robert, one time, a long time ago, there was a thought of closing Lexington Road down to private traffic and using buses to deal with the phenomenon of getting people back and forth between not Lincoln, but Lexington and Concord, where the greatest amount of coordination of events is. Is that history?
Not necessarily. I think we're still in the beginning phases where those options are still on the table. And we're going to lean heavily on Fred and his team to make those determinations from a safety perspective.
Yeah. Valid point. You know, in '75, there was gridlock between Concord and Lexington, and we're trying to manage for that. Whether that involves closing 2A and Lexington Road remains to be seen. We're working closely with the Park Service because there will be, you know, the Battle Road issues in Lincoln as well. So whether we lock it completely down or control it, we haven't decided yet.
Other questions?
This may go without saying, but will the road closures be in effect 24 hours a day through that period? Or will they be open at night?
So that's a little bit fluid in terms of what we're doing. We want to initially have as much closed as possible, and then we can always scale it back depending on the size of the crowd. So, and just for instance, too, on Saturday, once the parade is over, we're going to be able to open up certain roads. But with the activities that are going to go on Saturday afternoon into the nights, other roads are going to have to stay closed. So if we have it, we'll never get it if we don't have it. So if we have it, we can always scale it back, but we can't scale it up, if that makes sense.
And if you think in concentric circles, soft closure down to hard closure, clearly, you know, Friday, late Friday, we'll be coming into a hard closure and remaining hard closed until we can demobilize. So basically, the question. Expansion of the middle of that hard closure, is that going to be closed down 100% of the whole time? Because we need an emergency delivery or something, or somebody needs to get in and do some maintenance on a shop or something like that. You know, get in, and if we can't get in, will shuttle service be available at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yes. Well, there's going to be contingencies for that, and we need to assist with anything going on with that hard closure. Everything with the hard closure is within the, if you think about the parade route, right? Every year we close that. That is our hard closure. That hasn't changed in 10 plus years since the marathon bombings. That's when we started first incorporating that. So that stays the same. But at 2 in the morning, there's no parade. So if we need to move equipment around to facilitate something, we can do that. We just need notice prior to that so we know it's coming in, so we can plan for it and get the message out to our people that are staged at those closures as well as in our command centers.
And the command post will be open 24/7 problem solving, working through problem solving.
Yes.
So that will be a phone number to the command center or to the police station?
We're going to keep it consistent. If it's 911 first, main police number second. That way there's no confusion. People aren't guessing, oh, should I call 2222 or something like that? No. Keep it consistent. Everybody knows those numbers. It's the easiest way to go about business.
I don't know if this is a loaded question. I know it's time to go, but does the town anticipate like protesters? Are they giving out permits? Maybe that's a good question.
Pam, really? Get out that wine. Yeah, we are planning for protesters and, more importantly, counter-protesters. You know, protesters, in our experience, and that apply for permits and will work within their First Amendment boundaries aren't typically the problem. The problem are the counter-protesters who don't apply for permits and who are typically unwilling to comply with the law. And so we are developing robust plans. The National Park Service legal folks are engaged, town council's engaged, and we are planning. You know, who knows what the future holds politically and what happens in November, et cetera. And so we are developing, plans to be able to manage. You know, arrest is a last resort. We're trying to come up with plans. We're moving people rather than having violent confrontations with people during our celebration. That's the last thing we want during our celebrations. And we will do everything that we can to outsmart and outmanipulate counter-protesters to avoid any violent confrontations with anybody. But it's part of the multi-jurisdictional planning. That's not a Concord-only plan, and there'll be subject matter experts staged at the UCC that are trained in First Amendment activities. So.
With that loaded question, Pam, hold on, we got another one.
This question's actually for you, Beth. Will there be a way ahead of time, I think I know the answer to this, but I want you to address it, for all the businesses to know, because I know a lot of events are being shifted around to take place, not necessarily when they usually do. When will that information be available to businesses to know so that they can take advantage of maybe people coming into town for those pieces?
So a couple ways. One is, as Polly mentioned, Concord250.org is stood up and has a running list of events. As events are added, the calendar is updated. That calendar will also be pushed to the state. The state is standing up a website for MA250, so you'll be able to check out regional, and our website will launch to the state. Second thing is Mimi has started an economic vitality newsletter, which will have a section on 250 that we will populate. She'll use a lot of the information that comes out from the tourism newsletters and any information. So even more reason for us to get your contact information if you are not getting newsletters. It's really important for you to get them. That will be the biggest source of information. Donna, who most of you know, our public information communications director for the town, will also send out news and notices for big events. Obviously not every single event, but it's always good to subscribe to those in general, both as a resident and a business, because those are how Donna communicates in the case of sudden changes to plans. So I just encourage you to subscribe to Living Concord. Make sure I have your email. We will do our best to communicate in 6 different ways, but we're also relying on all of you to subscribe and watch, and we will do our best to get all that information out.
Also, we have, if you can't remember all of that, we do have a button on the Chamber website right at the top of our heading that links you right to the Concord250 site. And we will be having liaisons in the different areas, such as retail, hospitality, health, and whatnot, that you can go to directly we'll have 4 members that we will be up to speed knowing what's going on around, and you can directly call or email those members. That will be on our website too, to ask a specific question that we'll get the answer for you.
I think with that, that's an excellent way to wrap up this session. Again, let me thank all of you for attending and participating this morning. Much appreciated. I also want to thank all of the volunteers who are working on helping us move forward with what will be a wonderful 250th celebration. A number of those volunteers are in the room here this morning, and many, many more are scattered throughout the town of Concord. Again, many thanks to the town staff who've been super in terms of their support and engagement in this effort. So we're looking forward to an exciting year ahead. We'll continue the opportunities for discussion and dialogue, because this interchange is really, really important in terms of our planning for a successful day. So thank you all so very, very much. Thank you.